But I think a lot of times when people hear us encouraging them to predict an answer, they hear us saying predict the answer. And all we're saying is predict an answer. Hello and welcome to episode 477 of the Thinking LSAT podcast. I'm Ben Olson. With me is Nathan Fox. We're the co-founders of LSATdemon.com and the LSAT Demon Daily podcast. You can be LSAT famous, share news, and ask questions on our website, thinkinglsat.com. Also, if you listen to us or watch us on YouTube, please subscribe. It helps a lot to help others find us and get this message. Cool. Anything you want to add to that?
No, let's do it. Let's dive on in.
Okay, so this first piece is an article from our main contributor when it comes to articles, Karen Sloan. The title is High LSAT Demand Points to Competitive Law School Admissions Cycle.
Yeah, it's just reporting that there's an 18% increase in the number of people registering to take the LSAT. So it's seems to be shaping up to be a competitive cycle. We got an email yesterday from the Law School Admission Council telling us a bunch of these numbers as well. I don't think it really means anything for applicants. It's just like, it's an election year. A lot of people are interested in the LSAT and in going to law school. I don't think it really affects any applicants at all. I don't think you can time it. I don't think you can gauge it, right? I was looking at the charts that LSAC gave us. Yeah. And the charts were basically just kind of steadily going up. It's like, yeah, every year there's more people applying. There's just more people in the world. There's more people doing things. So it's like more LSAT registrants, more people applying to law school. No surprise. I don't think it's kind of clickbaity here from Karen Sloan. I don't really think there's a lot of news there.
I mean, it also kind of sends the message, at least to me, that our podcast has little impact on people's desire to go to law school.
What do you mean?
Well, we're always telling people that we wish we would not have gone to law school, that you shouldn't go to law school unless you absolutely know it's your life mission and dream, and you know what that involves. And I don't know, maybe there's obviously no impact on the world.
No, we're just fighting against the tide. It's like there's no we're not stopping it.
Tumbled around. Yeah.
I mean, we also benefit from it. So it's kind of like, I guess, fortunate, but yeah, we definitely caution people to make sure you know what you're getting yourself into and do some due diligence before you start spending a ton of time and money paying for expensive law school, especially paying for law school tuition, because that is a really, really big number. And you could put yourself in a huge financial hole if you go to law school without a clear plan, what you're going to do after law school.
Yeah, anyway. It's wild to think that it's easier to get out of a house obligation than it is to get out of your law school debt.
Yeah, and I mean, to make it, if you're a new listener, what Ben's talking about is that if you buy a house and you can't make the mortgage payments, if you buy a house and you end up, being unemployed and not able to pay your mortgage, they can take the house back from you and you can file personal bankruptcy and you can eventually just get rid of that debt.
Yeah.
With law school, that's not the case. They can't repossess your degree.
No.
I mean, they should be able to. That would actually make sense. I feel like the schools should finance your JD. And if you ever decide you don't want the JD anymore, you can give the JD back to them. Discharge your debt. Like, that actually didn't do for me what you guys said it was going to do for me. Here, take the JD back. Like, I won't put it on my resume anymore. I'll give you the pleather pad folio with my diploma in it.
$300,000 plaid folio. Yeah.
It's like a $4 fake leather folder that they give you with a $1 printed out piece of paper. I'll give you that back and I won't put JD on my resume anymore. I'll take it off my LinkedIn and you guys can discharge the $200,000 that I went into debt for law school. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Or barring that, it'd be nice if you could file personal bankruptcy to
Mm,
discharge that debt. But that also isn't a thing.
that's not allowed. Nope.
Yeah. So um, we just continue to caution people to be very, very careful about borrowing money to go to law school. You need to have a clear plan for what kind of a lawyer you're going to be before you start spending six figures on a a piece of paper, essentially.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. What's on the agenda for today?
We got two emails here about predicting the correct answer. The first one's from Taylor, the next one's from Sean. Yeah, do you want to take these?
Sure. Taylor says, I'm struggling to become more proficient in predicting the answer in logical reasoning, and I know it would save me precious time. I find myself reading the answer choices most times. Sometimes it's very obvious what the answer will be. For those more difficult questions, I start reading the answer choices. Something clicks after just a few words, and I can usually tell which one is the correct answer. Okay, let's see what Sean says. Sean says, prediction. The subject of Sean's email is prediction versus answers. Hey, LSAT Demon, I have had an ongoing issue in LR and RC when I get to the point prior to and after the question where I make a prediction. It is often that my prediction is the same when reviewing an explanation, but my answer choice is wrong. Do you have any suggestions for overcoming this issue? My assumption is that when I get to the answers and I don't make sense of the correct answer, I try to force a case on the wrong answer to then be correct. I've been mindful of this, but I struggle to make realistic progress in stepping away from this habit and slowing down to understand the strange and abstract language of the right answer, even if it follows suit with my prediction. Okay, so what do you want to say to Taylor and or Sean?
Well, I want to say that both of them alluded to a time issue, right? Taylor said, I know it would save me precious time, which makes me concerned that Taylor is primarily trying to predict answers to save time, where you should be primarily trying to predict answers to get the question right
Yeah.
and let your speed drop just on its own as
Yeah.
a natural consequence of that.
Right.
Same with Sean. I have a hard time stepping away from this habit and slowing down to understand the strange and abstract language. If you feel like an answer choice, okay, so the presumption is that answers are wrong, but if you feel like an answer choice might be going in the right direction, then you absolutely need to slow down and understand it, especially if you're going to pick it. So I'm wondering if both of these folks, like so many, just need to let go of time and focus more and more on understanding the argument, understanding the question, and then when you need to, understanding the answer choice.
Yeah, when people are trying to serve two masters at once, the like accuracy master got to get it right,
Mm-hmm.
and the speed master
Yeah.
got to keep moving.
Yep.
Trying to serve those two masters at once, it's futile. And what
Yeah.
ends up happening, like I can see it in Sean's email for sure. It seems when Sean says I try to force a case on the wrong answer
Mm-hmm.
to be correct. It's like Sean has a decent idea what he's looking for. He doesn't immediately find it in the answer choices. So then he like latches on to one or two words that he likes in one of the answers. Oh yeah, that must be it. Yeah, sure. Uh-huh. And he picks it because he thinks he has to keep moving.
Mm-hmm.
No, one or two words never makes an answer correct. And far more often, one or two words makes an answer conclusively wrong.
Absolutely.
So, Sean, you're vouching for that answer. It's like you got to take it more seriously. This is lawyer shit.
Mm-hmm.
So, are you willing to stand up in court and tell the judge, yes, Your Honor, this answer right here, every word in this answer answers the question based on the passage that I was given? And like the fact that you read the passage and made a good prediction, that's awesome. Did you also read the question and then revise your prediction? You know, there's a big difference between strengthen and weaken, for example, or big difference between agree and disagree, for example. Um, did you like, are you sure that you're clear about what you're looking for? And
Yeah.
then when you get into the answer choices, you got to kind of roll with the punches a little bit, because the right answer might not specify in exactly the words exactly what you were looking for, but the correct answer does answer the question without being fatally wrong in some way. And so what Sean is doing, I mean, what everybody's doing, when you miss a question, you're both vouching for an answer that is demonstrably wrong. On the page, it's wrong. Like, there are reasons why that answer is wrong. Not only that, but you're failing to pick the answer that is demonstrably correct. Like, those words actually answer the question that they're asking you.
Yeah.
And so, I think that I think you're right, Ben. I think you're right on the money. That if you think I got to predict so that I can go fast, I think you're missing the boat. Ultimately, it's on you to vouch for the correct answer and not vouch for a wrong answer.
So both Taylor and Sean should probably slow down, not worry about doing fewer questions, but figure out how to actually do this predicting thing.
Yeah. And the battle is largely won in understanding the passage,
Hmm.
right? You need to understand the passage. You need to understand what's there. And and then you need to understand the question that's being asked. And you should have some idea, most of the time, you should have some idea what kind of an answer would be good for this question that they're asking you based on this record. The battle is frequently lost in the answer choices when you just lazily rush to picking an answer without really understanding every word in that answer.
Yeah. One thing I was thinking about as you were talking, and you just alluded to it as well, and that is that I think a lot of times when people hear us encouraging them to predict an answer, they hear us saying predict the answer. And all we're saying is predict an answer.
Right.
There are multiple possible correct answers. The LSAT is obviously only going to give you one. And if that's not the one that you predicted, that doesn't make it wrong.
Right.
And maybe what Sean is trying to do is take another answer that's closer to his prediction and then force that
Right.
onto his prediction. The point of making a prediction as opposed to the prediction that will actually be the answer is that it's just priming you, it's preparing you to understand the kinds of answers that would work. And of course, you have to be open to something else.
Yeah. It's worth pointing out too that different questions have different uh there are certain question types you should be more locked into a more
Yeah, there's a
specific
narrower
prediction.
scope, right? And then
Right.
there's a wider scope. Yeah,
Right. So
totally.
conclusion questions, like what was the conclusion of that argument?
Very narrow scope. Yeah,
Yeah, or sufficient assumption questions. How do you
narrow
prove
scope.
this conclusion based on these facts? There's usually only one or two ways to get there, and you can often predict word for word the correct answer.
Yeah.
But so, you maybe want to stick to your guns a little bit more, but you still have to pick an answer that actually says what you want it to say, not just like wish cast. Oh, well, it's got a couple of words there that look good. Let me pick
Hmm.
that.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
What about these other words over here that make it conclusively wrong? And then you got to though also be more open-minded on strengthen questions, weaken questions, paradox questions, must be true, sufficient or a necessary assumption. And it's like, well, okay, there's a lot of different ways to strengthen this argument.
Yeah.
There's answers that conclusively strengthen it so much that it proves the conclusion of the argument. There's also answers that help just a little bit. And if it's the best of those five answers, then you have to pick something that, might not have been what you predicted, but it does. It's the only one that strengthens the argument at all. Then that's the one you've got to pick. So It's when we say predict, what we mean is understand the record, attack the record, know what's there, understand the question, revise your prediction. Like, well, on this question, based on this record, here's what I might say.
Mm-hmm.
And then ultimately, though, you've got to vouch for the right answer. So does it really say what you want it to say? Or are you just kind of wishful thinking like, well, there's a couple words there that I like. I gotta hurry up and get to the end of the section. So let me just pick this without really understanding. And I have a feeling that that's especially what Sean is doing here.
Hmm.
You want to read this next one from Callie? The subject is, how do I balance my study schedule?
Yeah. Hi, Ben and Nathan. I work full time and have a part time job averaging about 55 hours per week. Okay. I'm wondering if I'm spending enough time studying for the LSAT. Cutting back hours at work is not an option, and I work out early in the morning every day for stress management. So I would not like to cut this out of my routine. I get about 1 to 1.5 hours of studying on weekdays and 2 to 3 on the weekends. However, I feel like I don't get through as many questions as I need to in that time, as I spend a lot of time reviewing questions I get wrong.
Okay. Like, to stop you right there, Callie, 1 to 1.5 hours a day is plenty. If those are high quality hours, then you should be making progress. And if you're spending most of your time reviewing your mistakes, that means you're doing it right. There's nothing there that I don't like. Actually, there is one thing that I disagree with. There is that Callie says, I feel like I don't get through as many questions as I need to in that time. Ben, have you
Yeah.
ever given people a minimum number of questions that they should be getting through?
No, absolutely not. I mean, that was my exact concern as well. It's not about the number of questions you get through, it's about the number of clicks. And we haven't talked about clicks in a while, I guess, but it's the number of ahas, it's the number of
Yeah.
realizations you have. And that might be 2 or 3 realizations on one question. If you sit down for an hour and you work through one question, well, that's not a lot of questions for an hour. But if you get your mind wrapped around something that you were confused about before, then the next time you start doing questions, you're at another level. You've moved up in your skill set. And that's the real metric, not the number of questions. But everybody goes for questions. It's easy to like look at, right? Oh, I did 10 today. Oh, I did 20 today. It's like, so what?
Don't care.
Yeah.
Just don't care. I care if you're learning from your mistakes. So if you're
Yep.
spending most of the time reviewing your mistakes, that's what you should be doing, then I think you're doing it right. And I don't know that you'll be able to make any fixed, like any certain amount of progress on any certain timeline. I have no idea, but Callie doesn't have, it's not possible for Callie to find more time than this in her schedule.
Yeah.
I'm not going to advise her to cut out her workout routine.
No. Yeah.
And I'm not going to advise her. She says it's not possible to cut down on my work schedule. Okay, fine. The solution, you can't, what? She's going to cut out her sleep?
No, the
No.
only solution here is to change nothing except your mindset.
Right.
Stop believing that the number of questions you have completed is insufficient. It sounds like it's more than enough.
Yeah, you're investing more than enough time. I mean, you're investing as much time as you possibly can, and that's great. You've made this a priority. That's great. Just stop worrying about it. You want to read the rest of this email?
Sure. So Callie says, I have a lower GPA, 2.9, and I would like to get at least a 173 to counter my GPA in hopes of getting a good scholarship when I apply next fall. When I do drills, I score well, but in time sections, I get around 78% accuracy and can only complete about 19 questions. I just have to stop you right there, Callie. Again, you're concerned about the number of questions you're doing. I'm glad that you're talking about 78% accuracy. That means you're aware of that number and presumably concerned about it, but don't worry about the fact that you can only complete about 19 questions. That's
right.
Not a problem.
Callie looks at that and she says 78% accuracy, only 19 questions completed. I guarantee that she's more worried about the only 19 questions completed than she is about that 78% accuracy. She probably thinks that 78% accuracy is okay. It's not. 78% accuracy that's the number that we've got to work on.
Yeah.
So, like, my solution for Callie is you got to stop trying to finish the sections. You need to be more accurate on the questions that you're actually doing. The test will get easier. You will get faster over time, but not if you try to go faster. And that's clearly what Callie's doing. I think Callie here is letting the perfect or the near perfect be the enemy of the good. You know, she's so focused on, I got to get that 173 because my UGPA is low. And so because of the low GPA, I have to get a 173. And the only way I'm going to get a 173 is if I finish 24 questions per section or whatever. And I'm only at 19 questions per section and I can't get there. And it's like, okay, but you're not going to get a 173 with 78% accuracy. Your problem is accuracy, not speed. The problem, like the thing that's going to make you make faster progress, Callie, is to just let go of the idea that you're shooting for any particular score. And instead, you've got to get the questions right, not get them wrong.
Yeah, and that might mean doing 10 questions, right? You have to radically let go of where you're at. You're not at 19 questions. You're not anywhere close. So maybe you end up doing 8, 9, 10, who cares how many questions, and you get 95% accuracy, 100% accuracy, hopefully. Great. Then maybe you have permission to do a few more, but you got to step way down in terms of the number of questions you're doing, get your accuracy way up, and then see those numbers slowly rise over time. I mean, this is what you were talking about earlier, Nathan. She's worshiping both masters. She's got accuracy in her sights, and she's got the number of questions she's trying to complete in her sights, speed. And so even if she's treating those equally, that's a problem. You need to focus solely on the accuracy master and do what it tells you.
You need to get paid for the work you're doing. And, you know, Callie says, usually the ones that I miss are the last few that I complete. Well, yeah, because you're rushing and because they get harder as you get deeper into the section.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised that if you're rushing and if you're worried about, well, I'm only finishing 19 questions per section, so I got to really hurry on, you know, like, yeah, well, then you're going to start missing number 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. And that's how you're getting, you know, 78%. Like your form here, Callie, is really bad, right? It's like you're on the bench press with too much weight. You're trying to do too many reps. You got the huge arch in your back. And it's like, okay,
and it's wobbling all over the place.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, you're not at that weight. So stop trying.
Right. Drop the weight substantially.
Yeah.
And just make sure that you're doing the correct form. Then you're going to get the actual benefit. And the analogy is you'll be getting all the questions that you attempt right.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to be looking at more like 95% accuracy is your goal.
Mm-hmm.
You're nowhere near that, Callie. Like you're for every one that you're missing, there's another one that you're not understanding.
Mm-hmm.
So like you're getting it right, but you don't really know why. So like I think Callie's only understanding like 56% of the test right now on her timed sections. Like, Callie, you're not understanding the work you're doing.
Yeah.
You gotta dial it way back here.
I want to say one more thing about that too. So people sometimes, I think, hear us say this over and over again. And they're like, yeah, but why? Why does it matter that much? I mean, what if I got 78% accuracy on all the questions? Isn't that better? But you have to realize that when you're getting questions wrong or getting them right without really understanding and not getting there through the right way, you're building bad habits.
Yeah.
You're actually doing work that's hurting you. So you have very little time to study, 1 to 1.5 hours a day. Some of that time is actually possibly hurting you by developing bad habits.
Yeah. And there's no way, it's like, it's not possible. Callie isn't going to be doing all 25 questions with 78% accuracy. If she all of a sudden was doing 25 questions, her accuracy is going to go down to 60% accuracy.
Yeah.
and she's going to be like her score is going to be the same or worse if she does more questions. The way you can increase your score, Callie, today is to do a couple fewer questions, but get everything you're doing right. Your score goes up immediately, and you learn more from the work that you're doing. You'll realize how easy the test is if you do it our way. But right now it's like, and we see this a lot with students, especially if they come to us from other prep companies. We see students who are like, yeah, but my tutor told me that I have to do the first 10 questions in 10 minutes. So it's, like I missed 1 or 2 in the first 10. And it's like, yeah, okay. You're building on a cracked foundation. You're building bad habits. You're not going to make the progress that you think you're going to make by trying to rush and trying to get them right at the same time. You really need to surrender to the idea that I have to get them right. I just have to get paid for the work I'm doing. That's the most important thing. It's lawyer shit. So get them right and stop trying to rush. Yes.
Stop trying to rush. I just had an idea. So we have this number, the accuracy number, and of course the raw score in the Demon. And yet we repeat this idea over and over and over again. We can't seem to get people to focus on it. But I agree with you on the 56%, right? You just took the 22% difference and then you went down to 56% from 100 down to 78 down to 56.
The theory is, and it's a very rough measure, right?
But I think it's pretty good. Yeah.
For every one you miss,
yeah,
there's another one that you didn't really understand. Because what you did is you narrowed it down to a 50-50. You got them right half the time. You get it wrong half the time. So the 22% that Callie is missing, I really think that there's another 22% that she's getting right that she doesn't understand. So what Ben is about to propose is like an understanding measure.
Percentage. Yeah, exactly.
So Callie's understanding meter is right now at 56%.
So if people saw that, maybe they would feel the sting of a low accuracy score much more acutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Congratulations.
We'll have to come up with a clever acronym for it, but it's going to be something understanding meter. It's like predicted understanding meter, or I'll have to think about it.
I mean, right now we just say accuracy. We literally could say understanding.
Understanding.
Like you have a 56% understanding of the section you just attempted.
Yeah.
Or really of the questions you just attempted.
Of the questions you attempted, you understood.
And there could be an understanding score for the section, which would be even lower. But yeah, there's something there for sure. I like it. Cool. Thanks, Callie. Write us back. Let us know how things are going in a month or so. Anonymous writes, concerns regarding remote testing.
Hey guys, I know you recommend taking the LSAT remotely since it aligns with our practice tests. However, I've heard horror stories about issues with remote proctors. From my research, it seems you can't have dual monitors, just a laptop, can't have anything on your desk, might even need to cover bookshelves and pictures. Plus, there are specific requirements for your computer setup. I'm worried about missing something due to the lack of clear guidance. On top of that, I feel like all the setup requirements might put me in a funk since it's so different from how my room is normally set up. I also have accommodations, and I've heard of mishandling of breaks for remote testers, even though they contacted LSAC or the proctors beforehand. I'm wondering if taking it at a test center might be less stressful than managing the remote setup. Do you have insights on making the remote option smoother, or if I'd be better off testing in person? Thanks. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm sure there are situations where maybe it's easier just to say, hey, I don't want to deal with all this and just go to the testing center. I mean, that's why you can also take the test 5 times. So if the testing center turns out to be distracting for you, you can try again. I don't think it should be that big of a deal.
Right. I think the primary cause of test anxiety is giving the official test too much respect, like too much attention, too much pressure. You're putting all that shit on yourself. I don't like if you talk to just Ben Olson, if you send Ben to a remote proctoring center or in his home office or
Mhm.
on a 747, it doesn't matter because he's just gonna like do one question at a time and solve the question and get it right. And so all these issues, like people, they just fetishize the official test so much
Mhm.
that all you're doing is you're like inflating this test bubble, the testing anxiety bubble for yourself.
Yeah, and that's
So
what really hurts you, right?
yeah, so stop like just the answer. And I appreciate your question, Anonymous. I mean, I'm not like trying to bust balls here, but I am trying to send the message that none of this shit really matters that much. The vast majority of people who take the test remotely have no issues with their proctors. The vast
Mhm.
majority of the people who take tests in person, no issues with their proctors. So it's, and I also kind of suspect that the people who do report that they had issues with their proctors, it's like, yeah, okay, that's a convenient scapegoat for what you did wrong on the test.
The questions were challenging and I got stressed and
Well, you didn't
I
prep
didn't
enough,
like
or
yeah.
you just didn't like you were trying to rush to the end of the section. So you didn't really focus on what you were reading. So then you came away from it thinking, like, oh, wow, but that was a really hard test, right? And it's like, no, it was hard for you because you didn't do it right.
Mhm.
But I just think that like giving the official test too much respect is probably the primary cause of test day failures.
Yeah.
So generally, we think, hey, you've been taking all your practice tests at home in your cozy bedroom or home office or kitchen table or whatever. If that's a good spot for you, take the test there. But you've got particular accommodations issues. You think that an in person testing center is going to do a better job of respecting those accommodations. You've got a weird computer setup at home with dual monitors or weird stuff in the background or whatever. Okay, fine, take it at a testing center. But stop thinking about it and just make a decision and get back to your, regularly scheduled one question at a time. Read it carefully, understand what it says, understand what they're asking you, understand how the right answer actually answers that question. The LSAT is pretty easy and straightforward if you let it be. But the only way you get there is by just focusing on the words that are there on the page in front of you. Brittany is asking, should bar pass rates influence my applications?
Okay. She writes, I was comparing my list of schools' bar pass rates. Two of the schools' pass rates are low, in my opinion. When I was getting my undergrad, NCLEX pass rates.
NCLEX, I think that's the nursing exam.
NCLEX. Okay.
Yeah.
NCLEX pass rates really affected my thoughts on the school I chose. Non traditional second career. Okay. Should low bar pass rates keep me from applying to certain schools? I've searched your videos and haven't found much info. Longtime lurker, Brittany.
Short answer, no, because the bar passage rate of the school, all that does is reflect the quality of the fellow students at that school. It
Yeah.
doesn't really have anything to do with the education that's happening at that school because schools largely don't prep kids for the bar.
Yeah.
Schools do, I don't know what they're doing, but they're not doing that. They shunt off all of the bar prep. Like when you go to law school for 3 years and then you also go to bar prep the
You
summer
pay more
after law
money
school
to
for
some private
Barbary or
institution.
Kaplan or
Yeah.
whatever else, and you do your bar prep class. And you should pay attention probably to the bar passage success of whatever bar prep class you're picking. But the bar passage rate of the law school that you're going to, just it's more it shows you the admissions criteria of the school. It doesn't really show you anything about the education that's happening at that school. So we frequently advise people to go to schools with lower bar passage rates because those schools are the ones that are out there giving scholarships in order to entice you to come.
No, to be clear, we're not asking people to go look for schools that have low bar
Right.
passage rates, but we're saying we don't care if it comes back to and turns out to be a low bar passage rate school because that's not the metrics we're looking at.
Right. If you can get into UC Berkeley School of Law, you are a very, very good candidate to pass the California bar. So if you then choose not to go to UC Berkeley, but instead to take a scholarship to Santa Clara Law School,
Yeah. Yep.
like the bar passage rate at Santa Clara is going to be way lower than the bar passage rate at Berkeley
Yep.
because they just don't have as highly qualified of students at that school. But you were admitted to Berkeley. You've got high LSAT, high GPA. You're a really good candidate to pass the bar. So if you end up then saying, okay, yeah, but I don't want to pay $50,000 a year tuition, I'd rather go take this scholarship at this other school. The bar passage rate the bar passage rate of the school overall doesn't affect you.
Exactly. So this is basically a correlation causation mix up. Yeah. So just because the bar passage rate is correlated with the school, in other words, you're seeing lower bar passage rates or higher bar passage rates with different schools, that doesn't mean that the school is the cause of
No,
those changes.
It's selection bias.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. This next one is from Connor. The subject is LSAT Timeline.
Hi, Ben and Nathan. I'm currently in my first semester of sophomore year. I'm focused on maintaining a high GPA, along with also beginning to study for the LSAT. I began listening to your podcast, trying to learn as much as possible. My diagnostic this past week was a 154. That's a pretty great diagnostic.
Yeah. Nice work.
Yeah, we would expect you, Connor, with a diagnostic like that. If you study with us, if you do it our way, we would expect you to get into the 170s eventually. So, congratulations. My current plan is to apply and go to law school straight after undergrad, though I'm not opposed to a gap year. I know the typical route is for people to begin studying for the LSAT in the spring or summer of junior year. The typical route?
Definitely
Says who?
not.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
says your counselor on campus, maybe, but that's not in my experience. I don't think that's in Ben's experience. I mean, people start when they're freshmen sometimes. Other people don't start until 5 years after undergrad. So
Yeah. Or
I don't
longer.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah, or right, 20 years after undergrad. Anyway, Connor continues. With that in mind, would it make sense for me to take it sooner if I have the time to prepare? I've had people tell me you have a while before you have to take the LSAT. But would there be any harm in taking it during the spring or summer following my sophomore year, assuming my practice tests would be at the score I am aiming for? Thank you for all your work helping students prepare to take the LSAT and get into law school. Connor. I can only think of one harm, potentially, Ben, from taking the test early. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm thinking of the same harm, I believe, and then one other possible harm.
Oh, so the one I was thinking of was risk to your GPA.
Yep, that's what
Connor,
I was thinking as well. Mm-hmm.
I don't want you to get your GPA. I don't want you to maintain a high GPA.
Yeah,
I want you to maintain
a
4.0.
Yeah.
Or a 4.3 if your school offers A pluses.
Yeah.
Okay. I want you to literally get the highest possible grade in every class you take in undergrad. That's my advice for you as a law school admissions professional. Okay.
So don't look at the LSAT until you can show yourself that you can do that.
Yeah. And I'm taking money out of my own pocket now, Connor, by giving you advice that's aligned with your interests and only semi-aligned with my interests. I mean, my interests are I want Connor to believe in me, and I hope Connor does his LSAT prep with me because I think he's a great candidate and I think he could easily get into the 170s if he did it my way. But before you even do any of that, Connor, I want you literally getting an A or an A plus in every class you take in undergrad, because it is going to be very, very important for both where you get into law school and how much you pay to go there. The LSAT is really important. But right now, you have a one-time only opportunity to get A's in whatever classes you're taking. So I just don't want you. I don't like, if you're subscribed to the LSAT Demon right now and you're getting an A minus, I want you to unsubscribe from LSAT Demon and get that A minus up to an A or an A plus. literally. And come back to me later when you're getting all A's or all A pluses. Because it's just that important that I'm willing to take money out of my own pocket to tell you get the best grades you can possibly get right now. So, but other than that, I can't think of any risks. But Ben, apparently you have another risk that you're thinking of.
Yeah, so Connor talked about taking it in the spring or summer following my sophomore year. So presumably you have 2 more years of school. That shouldn't be a problem because all schools accept your LSAT for up to 3 years after you've taken it. And I think most schools accept it up to 5 years after you've taken it. I just don't want Connor to run into a situation where he feels like he has to apply.
He gets some great opportunity in his in his junior, senior year. He gets an opportunity to do some like, who knows? Like, he's got an opportunity to go do an internship at the White House.
Mm-hmm.
He's got an opportunity to travel the world. He's got a he
He's
has
still
a
not
chance
sure
to make
about
the
law
Olympic
school.
team.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. He needs to take a year or two to find himself. There's someone that he thinks he's falling in love with, and he needs to travel the world with them. You know, who
Yeah.
knows?
A
There's
little
all kinds of
qualified
things.
there, but yeah, yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, I get it. There are, I guess, reasons why you might not want to take it too early, if any of that is a possibility for you. But that seems like a pretty slim risk. And I would say, like, for example, Connor, if you've got a summer off where you're not really doing anything of value,
Mm-hmm.
if you're really sure that you want to do law school,
Mm-hmm.
maybe you've got lawyers in your family, maybe you've worked already in a law firm, maybe you've got a clear case for law school. If that's you, and if you've got nothing better to do,
It could be the
yeah,
best
I
time. Yeah, people just tend to get
totally,
busier. Yeah.
exactly. Oh, life is guaranteed getting busier, not less busy.
Mm-hmm.
So, sure, if you think you've got the time now, and maybe you do it during the semester, if
Mm-hmm.
you've got your straight A's or your straight A pluses, maybe you do it during the semester. I don't I don't really see anything wrong with that, but I want to repeat, Connor, do not put your undergraduate GPA at risk. It would be very stupid of you to think, well, I really don't want to take a gap year. I really want to go straight through.
Mm-hmm.
So I should probably be studying for the LSAT at the same. I want to work on the LSAT and my law school applications, and still be finishing up my undergrad all at the same time, just so that I can go straight to law school. Now that's not the plan. Not if you're doing it our way, because you could always just wait a year. You could always just do it one thing at a time and make sure that you've really got the best possible case for law school admissions. Connor could go to Stanford, right?
Totally.
I mean, get straight A's, Connor. With your 154 diagnostic, you could get into the 170s on the LSAT. Get straight A's, score in the 170s, apply to the top law schools in the world.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for writing in, Connor. Next item is it's a proposed word of the week. Brad writes in. The subject says, "Worth it to just FAFO?"
FAFO. I don't know what that means.
I
Do
have
you?
no idea what that means. No, you want to read Brad's email?
Sure. I'm currently scoring a 160 after studying for about 2 weeks so far for the LSATs. I'm taking the test in less than a month. I know you guys hate this question already. I was wondering what's the downside to just testing, applying, and seeing what I get? Is it going to hurt my chances later if I apply 2 years in a row? If I get accepted but don't get a scholarship, does it look bad if I try again next year with a higher score in hopes of a scholarship? I'm not going unless I get a significant discount, so I'm not going to be tempted into going full price. I'm fine waiting another year, but what's the harm in just seeing what happens?
The harm in just seeing what happens is that you're going to end up taking a bad offer. Like,
Yeah.
they're going to give you a scammership and you're going to think it's good. You're going to, you know, I've studied for 2 weeks. I got a 160. I mean, I'll just go ahead and take it, apply. They're going to be like, yeah, sure. Okay. Well, I mean, our median is a 168, but oh, you managed to get a 163? Yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah. Our tuition's $60,000 a year. Here's a $22,000 scholarship.
So, Nathan, let's take his premise as a fact, even though I don't think we should. But for the sake of argument, he says, I'm not going to go unless I get a significant discount. And this is a little weird. So, I'm not going to be tempted into going full price. Oh, damn. I actually misread that the first time. I thought he was saying he wouldn't go unless he got a full tuition scholarship. But all he's saying is he wouldn't go unless he got a significant discount.
No, he's like acknowledging that he
Oh,
will probably be tempted by some shitty half, like at many schools, a 50% scholarship is a ripoff.
Yeah, significant. Oh, you don't even know what I mean, that's such a vague term anyway. Like, you're going to think $20,000 is significant, but it might be less than half
Yeah.
tuition scholarship. Jeez
Yeah.
Louise.
Yeah. I mean, I understand what Brad is saying. Like, if you really are willing to, but here's the thing, Brad. Unless you get a full ride to like a top 14 school, I'm going to be looking at your offers and going, okay, yeah, like there's some okay, but you probably could do better if you got a higher LSAT, right? And it's the beginning of your legal career, Brad. So, like, lawyers work their asses off. And if you're not willing to put in the work on the LSAT and applying early and applying broadly, putting your best foot forward in the first step of your legal career, I don't know. What kind of lawyer are you going to be? Like, what kind of shortcuts are you going to be taking down the road? So this just doesn't, I appreciate your question, and I get it that, like, yeah, sure, of course, you could always just turn down all your offers. I just know how hard that is for people to actually do.
Well, especially family members coming in and pressuring you to just accept. Like,
Friends.
how could you turn down $40,000 from some school?
Yeah.
You're also you also spent money to prepare for the LSAT, to then apply to all these schools. The time invested is going to feel like a waste if you just throw it away. I want to change Brad's second to last sentence to say, I'm not going to go unless I get a full ride. I still think Brad should not apply. Do you agree?
Well, yeah, because if Brad got like, we know that Stanford and Harvard and Yale just basically don't give full ride scholarships.
Yeah.
But if you get into Stanford and Harvard and Yale, you need to think about going to Stanford and Harvard and Yale.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's where Supreme Court justices come from. And that's where, presidents of the United States come from. And that's where the people who really make a difference in the world, you got a better chance of really making a difference if you go to one of those schools. And so, if Brad half-asses his way into a full ride to an okay school, yeah, Ben and I would both be looking at that and going, okay, but you didn't really prep for the LSAT. You could have gotten a full ride to a better school.
Yeah.
Or you could have gotten into the best schools in the world.
Yeah.
Potentially. And you're just not going to know your actual value in this market. Oh yeah, schools give stipends, right? Even schools in the top 14 actually cut checks to people to go to their school.
Yeah.
And if you're a highly qualified enough applicant. So, short answers to your other questions. No, it won't hurt your chances if you apply 2 years in a row. No, it won't look bad. That doesn't matter. Nobody cares about that stuff. But I don't believe if you're lazy enough that you're willing to take this shortcut now, I'm just going to be shocked if you actually turn down mediocre offers.
Yeah. You're not exercising the discipline to not look now. So why would you exercise the discipline to reject bad offers in the future? Yeah. And sadly, it doesn't even seem like you know what a bad offer is, because you're saying, hey, if I get a significant discount, then I might go. No.
Protect yourself from yourself, Brad. apply early and broadly with the best LSAT you can possibly get. Do not just throw in a half-assed application with a mediocre LSAT. You're just, it's like you're, I don't know what, trying to think of a good analogy for it, but yeah, you're just opening yourself up to risk. And the risks aren't what you think they are. It's not if you apply 2 years in a row, they're going to hold it against you. It's not if you get admitted, but not a good enough scholarship, turn them down. That's not going to hurt you in the next application cycle if you show back up with a better LSAT. But the risks are that you're going to take a bad offer or you're going to take a mediocre offer. Did you look
Agreed.
up FAFO? I mean, it's not a word.
No, it's not a word. It was a...
Oh, fuck around and find out. I got it. Okay.
F around. Yeah, it's an acronym for F around and find out.
Fuck around and find out is but that people use that phrase as like you went and taunted the bully.
Yeah.
It's like, well, fuck around and find out what happens.
Yep.
So yeah, Brad, if you fuck around, you're likely to find out. And that's not what you want to do. What you want to do is you want to get the best LSAT you can and put yourself in a good position before you go swim with sharks. I mean, like law schools, we talked about this last week, Ben. Law schools do, thousands of these negotiations every year.
Mm-hmm.
Over the course of a admissions professional, basically a salesperson that works for the law school. Over the course of their career, they might do tens of thousands of these negotiations. And the one thing that you can do to protect yourself from those sharks is to just show up with the best LSAT you can. The second thing you can do is you can apply broadly so that you get lots of competing offers. And Brad sounds like, I'm just going to kind of half-ass it. I'm going to just throw in an application or two. Yeah, you're just likely to make a dumb decision because that's what they do for a living is try to get people to make dumb decisions. Okay.
Cool. Should we skip this question?
I think so. Let's do a tip from a departing demon.
All right.
This is a feature when people unsubscribe from the demon. We ask them to give advice to other demons. So this is coming from Camille. Camille was able to improve her LSAT, it looks like, by 12 points. And what does Camille say?
Please keep your faith in the process and most importantly, yourself. Work hard, work smart, and keep pushing. You can, in all caps, do this no matter who you are. If you've got grit, it'll pay off. But don't forget to take a break if you need it. Listen to your body. A day or two off will not kill you. I promise. Love, heart emoji.
Heart emoji.
Heart emoji. I promise. I took 3 weeks because life threw me a curveball and I needed to process that first. Then I came back better than before. You've got this. I believe in you. Camille.
That's nice, Camille. Thanks for giving us that tip on your way out the door. Sometimes people criticize us for like only focusing on the people who score 170 something. And Camille ended up in the mid 160s. I do think Camille probably could have done better with more prep. I believe in you, Camille, that I think you could have probably done better. But it's true that not everybody has goals that are that high. And it's possible that the schools that Camille is applying to are going to give her fantastic offers with a score in the mid 160s. So anyway, thank you, Camille, for that note.
Yeah, thank you. Be LSAT famous. Please ask questions or share news with us on our website, thinkinglsat.com, or on socials at LSAT Demon. Questions about the LSAT Demon, you can email our help team. That's help@lsatdemon.com. Also, please check out our other podcast, LSAT Demon Daily. That was episode 477 of the Thinking LSAT podcast. Thanks all y'all for listening. Nice knowing ya. Don't pay for law school.